Coach Love is back to transform a nation of hopeless men into hopeless romantics. And Sport Clips Haircuts has just the game plan for you, with a chance to win cool prizes, too. See the rules and enter at sportclips.com/Coach Love. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. 18 or older. Ends 2/5/16. Void where prohibited.
NBA Saturday primetime. The Spurs bring the NBA's best defense into Cleveland to face the new up-tempo offense of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Coverage begins Saturday at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio. This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Ian Fitzsimmons. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast from Thursday. Mike Golic Jr. and I discussed Cam Newton's comments about why he's so disliked around the National Football League. Head coach Ron Rivera joined us. Brian Billick was also here with us. Dennis Weidman, cross-checked an official? What? What should that suspension be? And Patrick McEnroe sums up what happened with Djokovic beating Federer at the Australian Open.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
With Golic Jr., I'm Ian Fitzsimmons, in for Senior and Greeny here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. Let me go ahead and get this in before he does. We are now joined by a Super Bowl champion. My man's wicked smart, and he is the pride of
Archbishop Shaw High School, Marrero, Louisiana. I got to fix my thing. Crooked. Okay, now we're ready. Now we're good to go.
He's ready. The reason that every time I see Clark, he gives me that. You know, remember 1987? Archbishop Shaw defeated whom?
You know what the thing is,
Go ahead.
You know what the thing is, though? Every other class or every other team that went to Shaw, that played for Shaw, was compared to that team. But that wasn't the best team. There were a ton of teams more talented than that one. That was just the one that beat Covington and won the championship. So for me, it's always a letdown. Like, I don't even like that team. I probably dislike that team as much as you dislike that team. You know, I went there to win the state championship. I was bounced every year at about the third round. You know, so you're not the only one that holds a grudge against that team. But I can say that my school beat your family school. And to moms, listen, we still love you.
It drives
don't be
Mama
mad at Ian
Fitz
for
every single time you take the dig, man. Every single time. All right, you have some very interesting thoughts on Cam Newton and what Cam Newton had to say about why he is perceived one way and, as Charles Barkley said, disliked because of the color of his skin. Before we get your thoughts, in case you missed it, here is the quarterback of the Super Bowl-bound Carolina Panthers talking about his perception. Here's the quarterback of the Panthers, Cam Newton.
I don't think people have seen, what I am or what I'm trying to do. And I said that prior to me being in this situation. But when I said it then, he's immature, he's young, he's this, that, and the third. It's like I felt a certain type of way then. I feel the same type of way now. Nothing's pretty much changed. They talk about maturity with me. They talk about skill set with this team. Nobody has changed. It's been the same kid again that was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. You know what I'm saying? The same Jericho Cotchery, the same Philly Brown, the same Cam Newton. Nothing's changed, but the only thing that's changed is that we're winning. And I've said it since day one. I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to. Oftentimes, and it's funny, I get inspired, make me go out there and practice even harder because I remember when I was, working out for the draft and I would see the Senior Bowl playing and I see these guys out there busting their tails trying to get drafted, try to have a job to provide for their family or themselves. And it's like, here I am. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, how I want to do it. And when I look in the mirror, it's me. You know what I'm saying? Nobody changed me. Nobody, made me act this certain type of way. And I'm true to my roots. And it feels great. But yet, people are going to say whatever they want to say. And if I'm in this world living for that person, this person going to say this person going to say that, then I can't look at myself and say I'm Cam Newton or I'm Cameron Newton to most people. Because I'm not. Because I'm living for you.
Ryan Clark, your reaction?
First of all, I liked it. I thought it was very well said by Cam. I thought he made his points in a way that was easy to understand, in a way that was easy to accept. Here's the problem: he's actually wrong, though.
Explain.
Here's why he's wrong. Now, and it's always touchy, especially, I'm a black analyst, and so when we come to the defense of black players and we speak about race, everybody always thinks it's about racism. This isn't about racism. He's not disliked because he's brown skinned. He's disliked because it's culturally hard to understand for most people. See, for many years, if you look at the black quarterbacks that were accepted, it wasn't about skill set, right? We saw Randall Cunningham play very much like this. The plays weren't called for him, but he played very much like this. Russell Wilson is a brown quarterback, but Russell Wilson's culture is easier to understand. Russell Wilson doesn't dance. Russell Wilson doesn't have the hip hop culture. Young Jeezy and Future aren't going to Russell Wilson games. So for the Caucasian fan, for the fan who doesn't understand that culture, Cam Newton's culture is too young hip hop, too young brown, right? Because Aaron Rodgers, so we were less offended. Listen, I've been around all these quarterbacks. I was having a talk with a 10-year vet of the NFL, his wife, he's a quarterback in the NFL. And the first thing she said about when Cam Newton won, he just rubs me the wrong way, and I don't know why. And so I had to sit here and have this conversation with
What'd you tell her?
I told her, I said, well, here's why he rubs you the wrong way. I said, because you don't understand it. Because for so many years, black quarterbacks didn't have to conform to a way of playing quarterback. They had to conform to a way of behavior. See, Russell Wilson's easier to take because every time he gets on the mic, he speaks about God. You don't see him dance because I've been around Russell Wilson in a setting where you're supposed to dance, and he has no rhythm. Right? And
Looks like me? Is that what you're trying to say?
So here it is, right? So it was less offensive to people, and it was less arrogant when Aaron Rodgers was discount double-checking, when he threw 40 touchdowns and we had to see it 57 million times on his MVP run, and he's thrusting his pelvis. That's okay. But Cam dance,
why?
And it hurts our sensibilities because because people don't understand the culture. Cam's not hated because he's a super athlete. Cam's disliked because he hasn't conformed to what we believe quarterback should be. He's true to who he is. You know why Cam dances? Because he can dance, right? And so when Gronkowski gets into the end zone and he tries to dance and it looks really crazy and there's no rhythm to it and he's doing all these things that we love when he does and he spikes the ball all hard, it's cool because people can relate to that. The old school fan, the white man sitting on his sofa, the white lady with their child who said she'd rather watch the cheerleaders. I don't know what parenting book she read, but said she'd rather watch the cheerleader than watch Cam do that. They're all arrogant. They all have ego. That's why they're so dang good. But because we've never seen a player like Cam, we've never seen a player in that position embrace where he's from, the culture, not feel like he has to change it to be accepted. And so now it's different. We love our cornerbacks to act that way, right? We love our receivers to act that way. But now it's a quarterback. It's supposed to be the face of our franchise. I don't know the last time y'all checked. There's nobody that looks like me that owns a team. Right? And so when you look at a face of the franchise, it usually comes down from the top and says, I picked this guy because of his behavior to lead my team. I'm comfortable with him. Cam's just so dang good that he doesn't have to change that. And so it's not that they look at him and say, oh, you're brown, I have an issue with you. It's that they don't understand the culture. And when we don't understand stuff, it intimidates us. So people can't even articulate why they don't like him. But I'm not going to turn this into race and say they don't like him because he's black. They don't like his culture. They don't like what he embodies, what he embraces. It's not right for that position, but he's winning and is right for that team. So we all need to just get over it and just even stop having this conversation or making him have to answer it, because every time he has to answer it, we have to talk about it, and it's going to be more picked apart. And then it just brings race into this thing where it's not so much race this time, it's culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with pretty much everything you said right there. And I think, like you said, not bringing race to it, but it's as much about that generation gap,
yes,
too. Because I think, I'm 26. This is stuff that I've grown up around for a while now, being in locker rooms and being around guys, like you said, that can dance, that can do all these things. And so when you're used to seeing it, it's much less of a shock. But for people, again, maybe that older generation that's, that more of that, hand the ball to the ref type generation, it's a culture shock right now. And that's why it's so hard for people to pinpoint what exactly they're mad at, because they see it from, like you said, the white quarterbacks, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, the guys that we laud as fiery. We say they're fiery competitors. But when a guy does the thing that Cam does, all of a sudden we scratch our head because it's not that much different. But why are we upset?
But look, how much of it is also this? Because I love what you just said. I mean, and look, it makes 100% complete sense. And I said this earlier when I had the Falcons and Panthers, and week 15, when the Panthers just beat the bejesus out of them. I mean,
I love that word, by the way.
Smoked them, man.
I love that word.
They didn't want to beat them. They embarrassed them.
Yeah.
Now I know the Falcons came back and got one later on, but still, he handed them their only loss of the season. But watching his teammates react to him, watching those fans react to him, his teammates follow him. They love him. They don't mind the antics one bit. The fans embrace it, and that's really all that matters. I mean, if you're a Carolina fan, that's all you care about. If you're in that locker room, that's all you care about. But let me ask you this. How much, let's say, to Don in New York, right, who's a Giants fan or a Jets fan, does the laptop at Florida or the whole $180,000 to Mississippi State thing, how much does that also play into the image of Cam Newton, or do they not even realize that was an issue?
I think people realize it, and I think it was part of the origin of the dislike for him. I think it also is a very convenient excuse for people. It's a real convenient thing to say, well, he did this with a computer, or, he was under investigation for his dad taking money, and his dad was basically shopping him around. First of all, it's a lot of them that get shopped around. Like, let's not make this a thing. This is
you
not
took a pay cut when you left LSU.
This is not a revolution. I wish. Dude, I was an undrafted free agent. I drove a pink truck in college that my parents gave me. We called it the Pink Panther. It was so bad. It started as an automatic. By the time I left, I had to stick shift it. I had to start in like second, and I had to get into overdrive just so I could go the minimum speed limit on the highway to drive home to see my mama. Shoot, I wish. But don't be confused either. It's because he's really good. You know what I mean? Like, it's really good. Like, he's really good. If he quarterbacked in New York, guess what? Don from New York would be hyped. He'd be hyped every Sunday. He'd have on a Cam Newton jersey, and he'd be trying to dab and do all kind of other stuff, and he'd be doing the Superman pose because he would be on his team. He's one of those people that it's easier to dislike him. It just is. And it's been, and I went to LSU, and shoot, I could stand him for a year. But you rooted for him because you saw all these things he had to handle. And some of them are self-inflicted. It's not like this guy has just been attacked by everyone for no reason. But when you talk about not liking him, disliking him, or having a grudge against him, people have no basis for it. I'm sure many of the people who don't like him now don't even remember that stuff. Like, they weren't even a part of it. They weren't following it when it happened. But now, since he's a superstar and since he's different and you have to see him constantly, we're trying to find reasons to not like Cam Newton. And because he took a computer or because he may have gotten money to go to school, that has nothing to do with the here and the now. This is a world of tolerance. We tolerate everything. You can't, I get a list of things I can't say on here every week. Almost.
They give them to me every day.
Right. Well, you need them, bro. Yes. And so to use those things to not like them is just an excuse because you don't have a real reason.
Yeah, they're red herrings. They're things that kind of throw you off the scent of what's really going on at this point. Like Ryan said, because none of it's relevant, especially in today's faux outrage culture where we get upset about something and then the next day we've forgotten about what we're upset about because we've already moved on to the next fake, phony thing that we're upset about. and so really to say that someone's held on to a grudge that long, there will always people that will be that petty, that will go back to that, and again, try and use that as something to throw people off the scent of why they really don't like Cam.
He's the ultimate guy, and reaction from both of you guys who have played the game at a high level. Is he not that player that if he's on your team, you love, but if he's not on your team, you just can't stand because he is so stinking good and flamboyant?
Well, he made me retire because when I saw him, I was like, shoot, if they're making quarterbacks like this.
Hey, before we hear from Ron Rivera, tell that story. I think you were in a preseason game. You told me this before.
I was like, man. So me, Troy and I, and this is the last preseason game. So Troy and I are warming up. And Cam comes running out on the field. He looks at me. I look at him. We both say, it's about over, bro. This is it. And he's running. And I don't know why Coach T made me play that game. He didn't make Troy play, but I had to play the first series. And Cam breaks.
Troy Polamalu,
and Cam breaks out the pocket. And I'm legitimately running up to him, kind of slow, because I was like, bro, just slide. You're the first pick of the draft. There's no need for us to have this collision. Just slide. And he slid in front of me, and I jumped over him and made it look like I really wanted to hit him, but I didn't. And we left that night. I called home. I said, babe, it's a wrap. I said, it's over, man. I said, they're making these quarterbacks like giants. They running all fast. I'm like, I'm done. I was like, man, start looking at
church. Time to punch out.
I say, man, start looking at the benefits. See what we gonna get.
See, I had a different vantage point in that game. That was my last preseason game in Pittsburgh, and I was one of those rookie guys playing in the fourth quarter of that game. So I saw Cam over on the sideline, and that was when I started to realize maybe football wasn't for me. I think we were playing a different. Me and him were playing a different sport altogether at that point.
Like that guy's as big as I am, and he's a quarterback.
Yeah, you don't stare eye to eye with that many quarterbacks that you look at, and you kind of see the build on you. Go, all right, you can block for me. I don't know if this works the other way around, man.
With Ryan Clark, Mike Golic Jr., I'm Ian Fitzsimmons in for Senior and Greeny here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app. Ron Rivera was asked yesterday, what makes his quarterback so good? Here's the head coach of the Carolina Panthers.
I think people should be scared of a quarterback with his skill set more so than anything else. I mean, that's who he is. He's a tremendously gifted athlete, a terrific quarterback, a smart football player. I mean, the list goes on and on. That's who you should be concerned with more so than anything else. And I know that's one of the things that he's always strived to is to get that separation. I don't think he wants to be known as an African-American quarterback. I think he wants to be known as a quarterback, and a great one at that. And I think that's what drives him.
He is a great quarterback. He is, in my opinion, the MVP of the National Football League. That man you just heard or saw on ESPN2, Ron Rivera, head coach of the Carolina Panthers, will join us right here on Mike and Mike coming up at 8:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 Pacific. So, segueing into the game, Ryan, your thoughts on how you defend Cam Newton if you are the NFL's number one and top-ranked defense in the Denver Broncos. How do you try and stop him?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's good you get a Sunday off before the game. You can go to church. You can say the prayers that are needed for,
And by the way, you're saying this with a straight face, man.
I'm dead serious. You do the same thing that any great man has to do before he does remarkable feats. Do you think that Moses parted the Red Sea without prayer first? No. He needed to pray to get the Israelites across that thing, man. And that's not just playing. Okay.
I was waiting on that, man. Like, is he going to crack, or is he just going to continue?
Really impressive.
Appreciate it, guys.
I mean, that was well done.
Well, here's the good thing about Denver's D. When you just look at it on paper, ever since Kelvin Benjamin got hurt, we started to try to figure, okay, how are the Carolina Panthers going to produce points? And even though Cam has made these wide receivers better, we don't consider them elite wide receivers. When I look at Roby, Chris Harris Jr., Talib, I consider that group and two of those players to be elite defenders. So you feel like on the back end, you can hold up. You feel like you can cover Funchess and you can cover Kotchery and you worry about getting deep. But other than that, you feel like you can cover those guys up. The key is the rush. Can Von Miller still create the same pressure with having to worry about Cam Newton escaping the pocket? Do you have to use Marshall in the middle to kind of spy on Cam at different times? The difference between defending Cam and, defending the New England Patriots is the threat of the run game. So they have to be able to stop the run, but also rush the passer with the consciousness to keep Cam Newton in the pocket. And this team is built to do it when you look at them on the back end, though. If you get a healthy Stewart or you get a healthy Ward back, I think that helps you. But this team has to find a way to lock up on the back end and stop the run, rush the passer with integrity and with the lane responsibility to keep Cam in the pocket. And that's the only way you have a chance. The tough part about that is now we've seen him make plays from the pocket. So it's a daunting task, but when you have DeMarcus Ware, when you have Von Miller on the outside, this team is built to do it. They just have to implement a game plan and execute it.
And really, I guess the part of it that's so different for me, and we saw it when a lot of these more mobile quarterbacks started coming into the league. Everyone got enamored with that read option, the zone read, thought it was going to be the next wave, and slowly NFL defensive coordinators kind of started to weed that out. But it's still a great wrinkle that Seattle and I think Carolina use better than anyone else. And for a defender, we see the way it can freeze that backside end and linebacker. What do you have to do to try and, in your preparation, combat that, knowing that it's coming and doing the best you can to stop it?
Well, the hardest thing about it in the NFL is it's not a steady diet of it, which means it's not a steady diet week to week, and it's also not a steady diet in the game. And if you look at Carolina, they run a ton of plays from the shotgun. Actually, most of their plays are ran from the shotgun. So everything looks the same when you're lining up. And it's not high school. Archbishop Shaw, when we beat Covington in 1987, we were a Veer team, and you knew it was coming. So you prepared all week. Who has the dive? Who's the backer that's going to take the quarterback? If they do have a pitch man because they motion a wide receiver in, who's the force guy on that? Well, when you're not playing that every game or you're not playing that every play, it's hard to figure it out. It's hard to know which one's the zone read and which plays the dive. And when you have guys like Von Miller, when you have guys like DeMarcus Ware who are attack, it's tough to prepare for those things. So they have 2 weeks to figure out their zone read option responsibilities. But when you miss, when you're not there, now you're chasing a quarterback who's bigger, faster, and stronger than most of the players chasing him.
The only good thing about all the digs you take at me about Archbishop Shaw and Covington is I actually didn't go to Covington. All my brothers did, so that's more of a shot at them. I got kicked out of the house. I went to boarding school at Georgetown Prep. So, hey, man, I got shipped out because I was a troublemaker. But, hey, I appreciate the constant shots to the Covington High Fighting Lions.
All for Mama Fitz, man.
How bad is Russell Wilson at dancing? You referenced that earlier for people just tuning in. How bad did it look?
It was bad, man. You've actually seen some Instagram videos when they go to Hawaii for like the team workcation and all that. But it was bad. And, the thing about Russ, he's such a nice guy. You allow him to do it because he's a great player. He's a super sweetheart, fun to talk to. But when he started dancing, I just stopped because I didn't want people to have to compare us. I was like, I'm going to let him get his. I'm going to let him enjoy himself. And I'm just going to stay right here with it. Just 2-step, stay right here. And now
like Will Smith and Hitch.
Yeah, and now we almost look alike. So people can't really notice that Russ can't dance.
That's very big of you.
Well, listen, Golic, you were my teammate, for a while, and man, I'm about everyone. It's not about me. The reason I wear this suit, even though you guys get to dress like that, is because I want to bring us all up.
We need it. and let me tell you, if I fasted for 2 years, I couldn't fit in that suit.
I barely can fit in it.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike. Coach Love is back to transform a nation of hopeless men into hopeless romantics. And Sport Clips Haircuts has just the game plan for you, with a chance to win cool prizes, too. See the rules and enter at sportclips.com/Coach Love. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. 18 or older. Ends 2/5/16. Void where prohibited.
The best of Mike and Mike.
First of all, last time I saw you, I was getting stitched up in your training room. So it's always good to catch up with you again, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ian. How's that? Was the finger, right? You're one of your fingers?
Yep. You guys tell the Dr. Anderson and Dr. Connor I greatly appreciate them stitching my finger back together as I had a compound fracture before the Falcons-Panthers game. True story. Bruce Poley.
What's interesting about it was that I was trying to find the doctors, and they said, they're stitching somebody up. And my first panic was it was a player. And then I thought it was just a reporter.
It's a true story. He comes walking into the training room, right, and they're stitching me up down there. I mean, I bone through skin, the whole works. And Rivera looks at me and goes, Ian, what are you doing an hour and a half before kickoff in my training room? And they lifted up my hand. He goes, okay.
What were you doing?
Yeah, how did this happen?
We'll get into that story later on. We'll get into it. But, Coach, I feel like I inspired your team with my toughness. So,
without a doubt, anytime you can see a guy play through pain or work through pain, that's an inspiration.
And I'm so happy that I was able to help inspire your ball club. First of all, congratulations. And you guys have been on an unbelievable tear. When, at this point during the year, Coach, did you realize that you might be around a special group of guys?
It's interesting. I've been asked that question, and I've been trying to reflect and figure it out. And really, there really was no real sense of that. And you know what? These guys are pretty special, I think, until the Dallas game on Thanksgiving Day. When we had gone through all the stuff that we had gone through, and we got to that point and we were an underdog, a 10-0 team being an underdog. And I just saw the mat on the guys had for that. I thought that was something else that told me, you know what, these guys can turn it on when they want to. And they turned it on pretty doggone well, and we've talked about it. We've been trying to tap into that ever since.
Coach, you've got a quarterback in Cam Newton who's turned it on in a big way this season for you guys. Made some comments yesterday just talking about what a polarizing figure he's been all year, but talk about what he's meant to your team in that locker room this year.
Well, you know what's interesting? Is this Mike?
Yes.
Man, you sound just like your dad. Holy smokes.
Gotten that once or twice, Coach.
I had to think for a second there. But, you know, Mike, what's interesting is he is polarizing, and for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. But the truth of the matter is he's a heck of a football player, a very good quarterback, and a real good person. And that's something I'm very proud of as to who he is as a young man. But as far as our locker room's concerned, he is one of our leaders. He really has been. He's been a tremendous team captain. He's put himself out there for his teammates. He plays with a tremendous amount of energy and confidence, and he exudes all those qualities that you look for in a leader. And the players are inspired by him, and they follow him. And that's one of the things that I think, you know, really has really truly helped us. And one of the all-time great shots, as far as I'm concerned, is the shot of him right after the Giants tie the game up. He gives that look of confidence, goes down, puts us in field goal position, and we kick the field goal to win. That's what you look for as a head coach. You look for somebody that has that kind of confidence, that kind of, you know, just, you know what, we can get it done, that swagger, and he shows that.
Coach, I know this is Ryan Clark here. It's a journey. Being an NFL coach, the seat heats up really quick, and for you to get your team to this point, it took for you to be steady. Even though we call you Riverboat Ron, we never saw you waver at any point. What were you telling your team after that loss to Atlanta that got them to this point and has them playing so well entering this Super Bowl?
Well, you know, Ryan, and I know you know this from your experiences, that really you should play with your personality as to who you are. And that was one of the biggest lessons I learned this year. You know, we go to Atlanta after the New York game, and we did not play with that same bravado, the same swagger, the same character and personality that we had. And it took Bené Benwickery, one of our corners that's on injured reserve, who was at home watching the game, to say it. You know, he did an interview after we had lost. You know, it was our first loss of the year. And he just came out flat out, said that was not the same team. They didn't have their swagger. So I read the article, and I called Bené and said, you know, man, you hit the nail right on the head. So the following Wednesday, when I had the team meeting before we were getting ready for our game planning, I said to the guys, I said, you know, it's as much my mistake as anything, guys. I did not preach personality, did not preach energy that we had been doing all year. So that's one of the things that I've kind of figured out about this group of young men is that to them it's really about their personality, their energy level more so than it is anything else, because these guys really they do the things that they're supposed to do, and when they do them to their ability, they can be a pretty good football team.
And, Coach, with that personality being such a big factor, you know, we had Coach Billick on before earlier talking about how important is setting up your structure and having a plan for these couple of weeks leading up to the football. And Ryan talked before about how much fun his Steelers group had leading up to that Super Bowl. For this team with their personality, how do you as a coach build a structure over the course of these 2 weeks and still let them have that fun and be that personable group that we've seen?
Well, one thing is, for us, the emphasis this week really is about game planning and installation, making sure we put everything we're going to use or we need in this week. That way, when we get to next week, there's not that pressure and that stress that you got to, you have to, you must. There's that relaxation that, okay, let's refine it. Let's work on our base fundamentals. Let's work on our techniques, as opposed to, oh, we got to plan, we got to install. No, that stress is going to be finished by the time we get to Santa Clara. Our focus is going to be on improving us, making sure we're ready to play.
You know, Coach, for a lot of people who haven't played this game, it's all about the destination, whether or not this team with only one loss wins the Super Bowl. How are you keeping that in focus for your team, understanding that, yes, we had a great regular season. Our playoff run has been magical so far, but it's about finishing the deal. You
know, Ryan, I think that's a great comment, because the biggest thing a lot of people forget is a lot of guys sometimes get caught up in just getting there.
Right.
And one of the things that we got to make sure we focus on is it's not about getting there. As you just said, it is about the journey. It most certainly is about the journey. But the truth of the matter, at the end of the day, the journey gets you to the destination. Mm-hmm. You've got to be ready to complete the destination, finish the trip. And that's the thing that we have to emphasize and talk to our players about, is making sure we stay focused on what the destination truly is. Not just getting there, but going there, playing and winning.
With what one of your Ron Rivera, head coach, Carolina Panthers, here with us on the on Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. One of your players, obviously, one of your captains is Thomas Davis. He's got that broken arm. He had the plate put in there. We all know what he's been through, all the ACLs and what he means to this team. How is he and other guys health-wise with this game now about a week and a half away?
For the most part, he really is our only concern. Everybody else this week is whether if they're a veteran guy with a bump or a sprain or something, we're going to slow them down a little bit. They'll be in installations and all that stuff. They won't actually get out on the practice field until later in each day. So I expect a couple more guys that were on the injury list yesterday to practice today, and then hopefully we'll get everybody but Thomas on the field on Friday, with the exception also of Jonathan Stewart. But for the most part, TD's doing great. It's interesting because every day since he's had the surgery, you could see him a little bit more lively. Today, we just finished team meeting, and he was walking through the locker room, and one of the wide receivers, Philly Brown, made a wise crack to him, and without even flinching, he took that arm and he chucked him a little bit with it, and everybody just kind of stopped and looked at TD and goes, "What?" He said, "I told you I'm going to be ready."
Hey, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That dude's tough as nails.
That's a beautiful thing. And, Coach, before we get ready to let you go, just I know you talk the game planning is so much heavy this week. What have you seen on film from this Denver Broncos defense specifically that had such a dominating performance against New England that you're really looking for going into the Super Bowl matchup?
Well, it's interesting just looking at their style of play. With Coach Phillips, who I got a tremendous amount of respect for, you see certain things. You see certain elements of a 3-4 front. You see the 4-2 stuff that he does as well. But he has some dynamic playmakers on that football team. And the thing that we've got to be able to do is make sure we can handle what they do. We know who their playmakers are. We do the best we can to match up against their playmakers. But the bottom line is you still have to be able to defend what Coach Phillips wants to do.
You faced Peyton Manning before as a defensive coordinator in a Super Bowl when you were with the Chicago Bears. That guy you faced then compared to the guy you're watching on film right now, what do you see?
Well, I see him using different weapons the way he uses them. When he was in Indianapolis, obviously it was a 100% the offensive system that he's used to, that he's been in, that he basically grew up in. This is a little bit of the offensive system is a little bit different, obviously, with Coach Kubiak. But again, you still see the same guy making decisions. He makes quick decisions. He delivers a good ball, catchable football. Very confident. You still see him orchestrating and controlling things at the line of scrimmage. We've got to be really good with the things that we do. Again, we've got to be able to make sure we get to where we're supposed to be. We've got to make sure we were able to get him off of his mark and when he drops into the pocket. And then we got to be able to make plays when we get those opportunities.
And for people just tuning in, Cam Newton yesterday had a really phenomenal answer as to why he is perceived the way he is perceived. When you see your quarterback and you hear what he said yesterday about why he does what he does, what was your reaction when you heard his comments?
Oh, I got no issue with it, because to me, that's the truth of the matter. There's no reason to change who you are. I mean, people like you or dislike you for who you are to them, and that's the one thing. And I think if anybody really took the time to get to know who he is, see the things that he has done, I find it hard for people to not like him. I mean, this is a young man that not just is a quality football player, but he's a solid person. He's a solid citizen. When you see him interact with young people and be the role model for young people, especially in today's world. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yeah, maybe you had to act a certain way, but in today's world, with all the social media that's out there, to be as flamboyant as he is, and that might be a strong word, but as flamboyant as he is, that's what the young people look up to today. They look up to the guys that have charisma, have some leadership to them, have a certain quality that I think is important. These young people will follow him, and that's what I wish people would understand. I mean, I thought Sports Illustrated wrote a great article on him about a month ago talking about who he is, and I think I really do mean this, because I had to study the guy. When I came out as the head coach, doing the things that we had to do in terms of preparation, I spent a lot of quality time with the young man, got to spend time with his family, went down and spent a whole day with him. And when you see who he is and you see the dynamics of that and the love in that home that they have, it's hard for me to believe that people just don't understand, who he is and why he is the way he is.
Coach, congrats on getting there. One more to go. We always appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And I don't think I deserve a ring for the inspiration that I gave you guys. So I'm good. I'm good, Coach.
I appreciate you, Ian. Thanks very much. And Mike, Ryan, good to talk to you guys.
Mike and Mike.
He won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. Been around the league a long time now with the NFL Network. Our old friend Brian Billick joins us now here on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you guys.
First of all, when you hear the name Cam Newton, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, God, Avatar. I mean, this guy, if you were going to build an avatar of what the prototypical pro quarterback ought to look like, it's this guy. I don't think until you've actually met him face-to-face, people can appreciate just how big this guy is. I mean, he's huge, but it's so fluid, and is so easygoing in his manner, so confident. I mean, you have to remember, and I know there's a lot of debate about, his approach to the game and is he arrogant and this, that, and the other. Cam Newton's been the best athlete at every sport, in every game, on every court, on every field he's ever been on since he was born. It's the only perspective he has. So, I think you have to keep that in mind as he goes about this march that he's on and the way he's producing.
You said the best athlete, and he's certainly, again, well used to that title. But for you this year, what's been the biggest difference and improvement you've seen in his game on the field?
Well, I think we saw both he and Russell Wilson mature as pocket quarterbacks. Until this game has always been and will be won by someone that can beat you from the pocket. Being outside the pocket's great. The perennial, or the proverbial, I should say. You don't want the athlete that can throw. You want the thrower that is an athlete, and I think they've evolved in that. They're supreme athletes. Don't get me wrong, but they've matured within the offense of the National Football League to where even if they could not run around, they can beat you from the pocket. And in particular for Cam, his deep ball has gotten much better. He's very much a line of sight thrower. If he can see it, he'll put that thing on a laser beam. Wasn't the best at dropping in the deep ball or dropping that ball in that intermediate area in behind the linebackers in front of the safety. He is doing that now, and he's become a much more complete quarterback.
Coach, I know you say he's the prototypical body, but for what we've seen through history, he's not the prototypical quarterback. As an offense coordinator, as an offensive mind, what are the challenges in making sure you use his abilities and the things that he can do to help your team win games?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right bringing that up, because when I say the prototypical quarterback body, you say, okay, well, let's go get us a Cam Newton. Well, wait a minute. There's not a lot of cats like that running around. Okay?
Right.
And it took the first overall pick to get him. The thing that's hard to deal, he's a +1, and by that I mean in the running game, a quarterback is useless, right? Because all he does is hand the ball off, checks you into the right run. But in their game, whatever scheme, no matter how you spread it out, and they love to spread it out into 3 wides and get that 5 or 6 man box. Now, typically, where the quarterback is wasted, you pick him up as a +1, because now the guy you normally hand off to is a lead blocker. Those little counter plays, let alone the read option that they run with it. The most unique thing about him is that quarterback counter that he runs. And nobody else does it like that, and that's a huge advantage for him. You've got to bring that guy down in the box just to account for the quarterback in the running game, and that's a huge advantage.
So if you're watching film, Coach, with the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos and a darn good one in Wade Phillips, and you're trying to figure out a way to defend Cam in this offense, how do you do it?
Well, first of all, I pour me a big glass of Macallan's.
Coach, 18, 21?
No, you got to go to 25 if you're going to get it.
Hey, Coach, my pocket's not like that yet, Coach. I'm working on it.
You're Macallan's. Good for you. Here's the difficulty, and we know that Denver, as brilliant as they've been defensively, and Wade Phillips has been absolutely brilliant in the way he's adapted his defense and whatever he's had to do to win the game. They're a little light. And the Carolina running game is so punishing. I mean, it's absolutely, they bludgeon you to death between the tackles. There's no pretense about it. They pound away with Jonathan Stewart, then they pound away with Mike Tolbert. And, oh, by the way, my quarterback's 245 pounds. I'm going to pound away with him as well. That undersized Denver defense, they're going to have to add that 5th and 6th guy into the box on a regular basis. And when you do that, and now that allows Cam Newton to play action fake, go one-on-one on the outside, and they match up pretty good. But as we just said, and as we saw, he's getting those big plays down the field. He has the time to let those receivers get the separation, no matter how good the coverage is, to come up with those big plays. So, we're going to see a change-up defense like we saw last week against Tom Brady. Everybody's talked about how they only did a handful of 3-man rushes all year long, and they did at least that many last game. You're going to see a lot of variation. It's not just going to be, okay, we'll put 5, 6 guys in the box, stop the run, and go man-to-man on the outside, because they'll tear that up pretty good.
And, Coach, on the other side, for that Denver offense, what's the matchup that you think is most critical for them going against a Carolina defense that's been great all year but is admittedly pretty banged up right now? Thomas Davis, trying to go, might not be 100% there. The secondary is being banged up, too, down the stretch here.
Well, and that's going to be the issue, obviously. As Denver goes at it, the hardest thing for Denver is, unlike what we've seen during the other playoffs, Carolina can get home with just a four-man rush. With Star Lotulelei and K'Wan Short in the middle, jamming up the middle and getting a pretty good pass rush, opening up those outside edges as well, that allows their secondary to kind of do what they want. They kind of have carte blanche in terms of the change-up zones. I would tell you what I noticed, and I just did a bunch of film breakdown for my week at the Super Bowl. I saw more of the linebackers for Carolina up and in and out of the A-gaps. In other words, what they're doing is forcing those one-on-one matchups with the offensive line, which is going to favor Carolina. It's a great run-stopping front. And then they do a lot of things from it. They'll step up into the A-gaps and drop out. Then they'll bring one guy. They actually dropped Star Lotulelei one time. They'll do a lot more things defensively with their front than we normally see from Carolina, because they're pretty good at just lining up four and coming at you that way.
Coach, as we get ready to turn you loose, I know you have a column up on NFL Network, on NFL.com, about advice for both Ron Rivera and Gary Kubiak, who are both coaching for the first time in Super Bowls as a head coach. The wait is got to be just almost nauseating. What advice do you have for those two head coaches going into their first Super Bowl as head coaches?
Well, there's a lot. Mostly the article focuses on this week, this bye week, which is like no other week that you have. And it's different than for these two teams because neither one of them played in the wild card. We played in the wild card, so by the time we got to the bye week of the Super Bowl, we were exhausted. But you spend the early part of the week getting all the minutia out of the way. We had a cadre of organizational people for the players, their wives, their aunts, their uncles, their moms and dads to make sure that the tickets, the hotel, the travel, the meals, get that all out of the way. And then our practices the latter part of the week, we literally were a little more than walkthroughs. We needed the rest. Now, these guys, I don't know that they'll quite do that. We installed the game plan. The one bit of advice I got from everybody, and the best one was from Dan Reeves. Dan Reeves spent an hour with me on the phone telling me how to approach it. And he said, but as a head coach, I'm 0-4, so just do the opposite of everything I just told you. But we mentally, we were prepared to play Sunday night before the Super Bowl. And did virtually nothing physically. So when we actually got down to the week of the Super Bowl, you don't keep changing the game plan. That shows you that you're a little bit panicked. And we actually had some pretty physical practices leading up to the game because we'd used that week and a half to basically rest ourselves.
Coach, and I know you're also working with SeatGeek.com for the Super Bowl. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge game. It's the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl. Anybody that's interested in tickets, and obviously you know that it goes up and down during the week. If you go to SeatGeek.com, phenomenal site, easiest app in the world, because Super Bowl tickets, as you know, it's like playing the stock market. They're at a certain price now. They'll change during the course of the week. You'll see what tickets are available. You'll see what the view is. You'll be able to monitor the fluctuation in price, and most importantly, every seat on SeatGeek is guaranteed, so you know that seat's going to be there for you. A great way to take on this or any other game that you're interested in seeing.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Villanova at the buzzer for three, and he knocked it down.
David Blatt is out, and Tyronn Lue is in. Now the Cleveland Cavaliers begin the push to the postseason with their new up-tempo offense.
The lob for James Duncan.
How will it match up against the NBA's best defense? We'll find out when Kawhi Leonard, Tony Parker, and the San Antonio Spurs come to town.
Leonard blocks the shot.
NBA Saturday primetime. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio. The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
You ever hit an official?
No.
Either one of you?
I have
No.
not.
No.
I've wanted to, though.
Oh, yeah.
So does that count?
No, that does not count.
Okay, cool.
But there was definitely a tone of both of your voices as far as the no, but there was this one guy, this one time.
Right.
Well, it happened last night in the National Hockey League. Calgary Flames defenseman, if you're just tuning in, Dennis Weidman, gets rocked on the boards, gets up, he's a little woozy, and then he gathers himself. He's skating over to his bench. He sees linesman Don Henderson, who was right there, who did not make the call on the illegal check boarding, whichever way you want to call it, and look at it. he picks up speed. You can watch it right now on ESPN2. If you're listening on ESPN Radio, Google it and judge for yourself. In my opinion, once he gathers himself, he sees the linesman. He changes course a little bit, speeds up, and then knocks the snot out of him. In my opinion, there was, the way I'm watching it again right now, without a doubt, he just all of a sudden unloads with both hands on his stick and cross-checks an official. In my opinion, watching that 400 times this morning, that was deliberate, that was intentional, and a big old suspension. It needs to happen. Your reaction, guys.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's what I said to start off with. For him to try and justify it the way he did, if anything, he needs a better excuse if he's going to go in with the lie here than the one he came up with, because it just doesn't hold up based on what you saw. But it was absolutely deliberate. And like we just kind of hinted at before, everyone's had officials that they've certainly disagreed with over the course of the game. And there's times when you want to do something like that, but you are an adult, you're a professional athlete, you have to recognize that that's not the way you do business.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can look at it. He was kind of woozy earlier.
Right when he got up.
And it wasn't like I'm concussed woozy. He was just like, okay, kind of taken aback by the hit. And he starts skating to his right a little bit and then totally changes course to go at this guy. And I've been in situations where your head is down, you pop up. The first thing you do when you pop up and you're about to run into somebody you do not want to run into, you divert your course. Either you try to step back or you skate to the side. He hits the dude with the stick. Clearly, he did this intentionally. And I know a lot of times I try not to speak to intent, so I'll say this. He sure didn't try to move out of the way. He wasn't shocked.
Extended arms, man.
He was going toward this dude. And, it's hockey. Listen, guys, they let you punch each other in the face. Like, they have dudes who score no goals, get 1 assist, beats up a lot of people, and you're voted captain for the All-Star game. Why lie? Say, I was mad, I got hit, I ran the ref over. End of story. They let you beat people up anyway.
Yeah, but you can't hit an official, Coach. That's a 20-game suspension minimum by NHL rules.
But he deserves it.
Oh, no doubt. Now, here's, in case you're just tuning in, here is Dennis Weidman defending what he did.
Obviously, I took a pretty hard hit and down in the corner and had some pretty good pain in my shoulder and my neck, and I was just trying to get off the ice, and I was kind of keeled over, and at the last second I looked up and I saw him, and I couldn't avoid it. I would never intentionally try to hit a linesman or a ref or anything like that, and it was completely unintentional, and I already apologized to him. So.
Oh, man, you can apologize all you want. You can say it wasn't intentional, but, man, to me that was intentional.
I would fail the ACT right now because I didn't know, got my head up at the last second. Now it was cold for I skated for 5 seconds looking at him.
It's amazing.
I got it now. I see how it works.
Sports Center is brought to you by H&R Block. It's refund season. Come into your local H&R Block office and let their experienced tax professionals help you get every dollar you deserve. Your maximum refund is guaranteed. There is nothing he can say. There is nothing you can't convince me that was not intentional. He's got a big fat fine coming. He's got a big suspension coming, and it is well deserved. And the only good part of this is that Calgary stinks. I mean,
not hurting the product on the ice.
No, I mean, you're not going to miss him much, and it's not going to impact playoffs because they're second to last in the West. So that's you want any positive and an awful negative, it's that.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Joining us right now, let's go across the world, Golic, and we're joined by Patrick McEnroe, who was just on the call of the Australian Open with Chris Fowler, and the Joker wins again. And Patrick, thank you so much for your time, as always. That first set, Federer looked almost jittery for a man who was widely regarded as one of the greatest to ever play this game, as Djokovic jumped out to a 6-1 lead, and the rest was history. You're there, you watched it, you called it. What did you make of that first set?
Well, there's no doubt. First of all, there's no doubt, guys, that Roger Federer is one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. But he is 34 years of age, and he's now going up against a guy, Novak Djokovic, who's playing at the peak of his powers and seemingly getting better. But you're right, he was jittery because Djokovic was absolutely on fire in the opening set. Federer was shell-shocked, to be honest. He'd never been beaten this badly in the first two sets of a major since the French Open, which, of course, was Rafael Nadal Nadal dominated for many years. So on this kind of court, in this kind of match, we've never seen something like this happen. Not only the first set, but the second set as well. Federer was able to finally get himself into it early in that third set and make a bit of a match of it. But Djokovic, well, he's about as dominant right now in the men's game as Serena is in the women's game.
For Federer, you did say one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, and certainly no one would dispute you on that. But after this match today, now has a losing record between really his two prime rivals in Rafael Nadal and Djokovic. What does that do to his legacy all time, if anything?
Well, I don't think it really hurts him, to be honest. I mean, it's a little bit like, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I mean, the fact that they keep putting themselves in positions to get to the Super Bowl for both of them. I mean, Roger Federer, I don't think should be penalized for the fact that at 34, he continues to play at a very high level. Now he's going up against two all-time greats. Nadal, when he was dominating in his prime, and Djokovic is now right in the middle of his prime. So I think overall it doesn't hurt his legacy. It does is a testament to his staying power that he's still able to be number 3 in the world, which he is now. But Djokovic certainly has the opportunity, I think, over the next couple of years to start to make a move where we could start to talk about him. You know, he started to do that with Nadal when he got to 14 majors. Remember, Roger Federer has 17. Djokovic now in double digits himself, and who knows, the way he's playing this year, he might close in on Nadal by the end of the year and end up with 13, maybe 14.
You know, Patrick, and I'm a sap when it comes to stories like this. I wanted to see Peyton Manning try and ride off into the sunset and win another Super Bowl. Roger Federer is one of those guys also. He's 34. He's been so remarkable for the game. Do you believe that he has another major in him?
Well, when I look at the way he's played over the last 12 to 18 months, I would say yes. I mean, he's the only reason what I would say he can't do it is because of this guy that beat him again tonight in Novak Djokovic. So he's putting himself in positions, guys. He's in the semis here. He's in the finals of the U.S. Open last year. He's in the finals of Wimbledon last year. He beats Andy Murray. He beats Stan Wawrinka. These are guys that have been winning majors as well. So he's clearly at the level where he's right there, but something has to happen, something has to give for him to figure out a way to solve this Djokovic riddle, this puzzle of this guy in front of him who is just playing the game at such a high level right now. Not only his tennis skill, his athleticism, his movement around the court is amazing. All that being said, I would still say that Roger Federer's best chance to win one more major would be on the grass at Wimbledon.
And for Djokovic, he's only lost once in his career when he's taken a 2-0 set lead. What is it about him that makes it that hard to come back when you're down in that 2-0 hole?
Well, like any great player, when he gets up a couple of sets, it frees him up. It allows him to sort of take more chances, to take more risks. But I think the biggest reason for Novak Djokovic is his physical fitness, his movement around the court. He breaks guys down, and he breaks your will down because not only is he just a great pure tennis player, but he runs you side to side. The reason he's been able to dominate Federer in best-of-5 set matches over the last couple of years is because he breaks him down physically. He starts to wear him down. That wasn't the case tonight because his tennis was at such a high level. So you're down 2 sets against Djokovic. You know you're going to have to not only play remarkable tennis just to get back into it, but physically you're going to have to withstand a lot of suffering with your legs and with your heart rate to be able to stay in that type of match. So that's really the biggest reason why once he gets that kind of lead, almost impossible for him to become back against.
Patrick McEnroe was on the call at the Australian Open here with us on ESPN Radio, ESPN2 here on Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Does anything, Patrick, that Djokovic does now surprise you?
Not really. I mean, I was surprised tonight at how well he came out of the blocks, and his focus was unbelievable. I think that was partly because of his respect for Roger Federer and, of course, the semifinal at a major. But what he's improved on in the last couple of years are a couple things. His second serve has gotten a lot better. I credit Boris Becker a little bit, his coach for the last couple of years, for adding that wrinkle to his game. And he's also become very comfortable around the net. He didn't need to do much of that tonight. We've always known about his defense. We've always known about his relentless ability on the baseline to take the ball early, to move his opponents around. But he continues to add little wrinkles to his game to keep improving. That's why it's so scary right now for the rest of the field in men's tennis.
Looking forward towards the final now, who do you have with the better chance of being able to pull off the upset and beat Djokovic?
Well, I would say Murray has the better chance. Andy Murray will take on the big Canadian Milos Raonic, and Raonic has had a great tournament to get to just his second career major semifinal, his first down here in Australia. Andy Murray, over the years here, has played very well. He's been in 4 finals, but he's lost once to Federer and 3 times to Novak Djokovic. That being said, Murray's been able to beat Djokovic in some big matches before. He certainly is capable of doing. He has the physical skills and the defensive skills to hang with Djokovic in a very tough, grinding type of match. He plays a similar style. I would give him a better chance. Raonic has a much different kind of game with the big serve. He's more explosive. He'll take more chances. But if he somehow upsets Andy Murray, it would be him playing in his first major final. That would be a very tough ask for him to upset Novak Djokovic. So I think Murray's got the better chance. All that being said, it's hard to think that Novak Djokovic won't win his 6th, that's right, 6th Australian Open title here in Melbourne.
That's just ridiculous. Patrick, we appreciate your time. We know it's a long day as you were on the call today with the Australian Open with Chris Fowler. And speaking of Fowler, by the way, does he ever hand over the wine list when you're ordering at dinner? Does he give that up?
Well, I think the reason it's me here is because he's already on his way there right now because it's nighttime here. So we're going to get out of here. Have a good night. You guys have a great morning, and we're happy to be on with you, and we'll look forward to the next couple of days here from Down Under.
Patrick, great stuff, man. Thanks for your time on a long day.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantori, and here's something everyone should know. If you're driving and you can't see clearly for 1 second at 60 miles per hour, you can't see clearly for 88 feet. And a lot can happen in 88 feet. That's why Bosch created the Icon with ClearMax 365. It's a rubber technology for longer lasting performance, not found on any other wiper blade. Because like